Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt
And
Roast.
I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
We are back with Yellowjackets. It has been a very, very long wait, but this is our reaction and review for season 3, episode 1 and episode 2. Showtime dropped first 2 episodes all at once, so suffice it to say, we have a lot to get into.
Yes, it's the very sweet Valentine's Day gift.
Why not celebrate Valentine's Day with somebody, being drug along by Coach Ben in the flashback,
Oh,
mysterious phones being left in bathrooms? And this show is twisted and weird, and I think there's some really good stuff in these first 2 episodes. There's a couple of things I'm just kind of like, out of them, but we'll see where things go. We're still really early in the season.
I love and have always loved the choice of music on this show. For them to use Juice Newton's cover of Queen of Hearts on that phone, I absolutely loved it. It's one of my all-time favorite songs and favorite videos.
There are a few moments here or there in my TV watching life when I see something and I know immediately, oh, Jess is going to talk about this. Like that, the moment that they started playing Queen Hearts, I was like, okay, yeah, I know this is coming up at some point.
I have played that song an unhealthy amount of times. It's so good.
Yeah, like I really like the music on Yellowjackets. It's a little bit, I don't want to say before my time, but at the time in which a lot of the music that's going on in this show was big, I was really, really young. But I will say,
And I was about that age.
Bush's Glycerine's like the one song in this episode. I was like, okay, now that's a song that I
So
have listened
good.
to about a billion different times. But this episode, I think it's done a really good job of sort of making us confused about a certain number of things. Like something's happening with Shauna in the present. Somebody is watching her. Like, who is that? But then all of a sudden, the questions about the fire and the cabin at the end of last season, like these things that I thought we all kind of had settled on what had happened there, but then in these episodes, Yellowjackets just is kind of like, no, 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 no. You thought too soon.
Yeah, who really burned down the cabin? Is it Coach? Is it Coach in his head where somebody's telling him to do it? Is
Yeah.
it somebody else? I truly just felt like it was him. I mean, we saw him outside the cabin at the end of last season. He's got matches, he's got rope. I'm like, okay, well, who else is it? So is it how if it's not him, then I mean, we really got to get into who it could be.
Yeah, and we are definitely about to do that. But before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be here all season on Yellowjackets with reactions, reviews, theories. It's also Jess's 50th birthday next week. And, happy
Yay!
birthday. And
Oh, thank you.
you know what would be a great birthday gift for us? Well, it's not even my birthday, but you know what would be a great birthday gift for her? Getting us to 70,000 subscribers here at the channel. Like, we would really, really appreciate that.
I would appreciate that so much. We've been at this YouTube game for a really long time, and to hit that milestone of 70,000, it would really mean a lot. So, yeah, if you want to give me a little birthday gift, hit that subscribe button. And also, we
Yeah.
are covering The Pit, which is airing on Max, and Prime Target, which is airing on Apple TV, over at our Patreon. It's another way that you can support us, get more Yellow Jackets content. It's all good. We will leave a link for you below. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate that.
Okay, let's start with something that I very much felt the absence of. And you
Yeah.
guys let me know in the comments if you also felt that.
Mhm.
I really felt the absence of Natalie, adult Natalie, Juliette Lewis,
Yeah.
so much in these 2 episodes. Without her, it has changed the vibe of the show a little bit for me. And I'm not saying bad or good or anything, but it's different.
I think the biggest problem that I'm having with the present day stuff at the moment, and I think some of it is what you're saying. I think some of it is not having Natalie, but it's also one of the real joys of the past storyline is we're getting to see all the Yellowjackets together. Like I know there's a little bit of separation now with Mari, but I think in general, most of them are together. And we're in a situation in the present where, yeah, occasionally we get a scene with a few of them together or whatever, but it's kind of like Van and Ty have their own thing going on. Shauna's got her thing going on. We've got Misty over here with Walter, and it's just there's not a lot of connective tissue. And Natalie was helpful to some extent when it comes to that. And I think she gave that storyline a little bit more oomph. And also, Juliette Lewis is just too iconic a performer that, like,
She is.
you're not going to have the same show if she's not around. And I'm sure the producers knew that. I'm sure that probably has something to do with Hilary Swank coming on this season, which we'll
Mhm.
get into a little bit later. But yeah, it's a different show. It's too early to be seen, at least for me, whether or not they're going to be able to weather that storm.
Well, here's the thing for me, and
Yeah.
I've said this in our past reviews as well, that the stuff that's going on in the present for
Yeah.
me is always the weakest part of the show compared to what's going on in the past, where everyone is in the forest and they're learning about everything that's happening and they're trying to survive.
Yeah.
That stuff is really compelling for me. Last season, they did a decent job with the stuff that's in the present, but these two episodes, for me, the present feels really directionless. You've got like Dan and Ty, and finally they're coming together, which I
Yeah.
really like, but they're also like dining and dashing, and they're not like, I'm just kind of like, what is going on here? And then you've got everything with Shauna and Jeff trying to sell some furniture. I'm like, okay, sure, right? But then you've got Lottie showing back up again, and I know
Mhm.
how much everybody likes Lottie. I like Lottie too, and I think adult Lottie was such a great addition to
Mhm.
last season. But 6 weeks after she tried to kill somebody and she's back at the house here, she tried to kill Callie's mom. And I get how they're trying to like play it out to be like Callie wants some answers, so she's gonna
Yeah.
push for this to happen. But Shauna, I know Shauna hasn't always been like the best parent or the best wife, but she really loves her family. I don't know in what scenario either Shauna or Jeff actually allow Lottie in that house under any circumstances. I just didn't buy it.
There's some things in these episodes that are pretty baffling, and that's pretty far up on that list. One thing I'll say really quick about Van and Ty, you guys just be lucky that you were not eating at the bear, because you would have had cousin Richie just
I
chasing
know.
you down the street.
With
But
a gun.
I really did I really did kind of feel frustrated about this whole Lottie situation, because I know you want to have Lottie on the show, and that's really important, right? Because she's such a
Of
source of
course.
mystery, and this
Yes.
question about
And
whether,
connection.
yeah, like whether or not this wilderness is a thing, whether or not it's all in their heads, and she's just got that charisma to persuade people. Maybe that's your argument as to how she even manages to stay there in the first place, but it is still baffling to me that they would let her in this situation. And I know that they thought in bringing Misty over so that Misty could kind of be there to make sure nothing crazy happens with Lottie and Callie, but it's still like, are you really putting all your trust in Misty either? She does not have a crystal clear track record. She's shown to be really insecure.
Yeah, Lottie tried to kill your mom. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird that she is allowed in this house at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're gonna bring in Misty. You're not gonna call Ty or
Yeah.
somebody else, or like maybe it's okay to just have Callie be there alone, but don't invite Lottie into the house.
Yes.
Be like, listen, we can't invite you in. I'm sure you understand. You just tried to kill me.
Yeah.
My daughter was there and saw this. She's also having issues with everything that
Yeah.
happened here. So you can't be here. Here's some money. Go to the hotel. Like, you can do something else
Yeah.
than have her in the house. I didn't believe it. It doesn't make sense.
No, just give Callie some money and be like, here, go see a
Right.
movie, go to a concert, like do something like this. Because
Come
Cal-
with us to the hotel and sit at the next table. I'll buy you dinner.
yeah, like Callie's a teenager. Like she's more than capable of sort of either taking care of herself or being home alone. Like there are a lot of other situations this could have happened. I do think I'm probably getting too much Callie for my taste in these two episodes. And it's not like it's not like I think the actress is bad or anything, because I don't. It's just that I'm not that invested in that character. It's like, if we're in the present, I want to be in the present with the Yellowjackets. I want to be
Mhm.
exploring more of what's going on with some of them. And it's even like, I love Melanie Linsky. Like, I know she can be really funny. I know she can do a lot of things, but like
Yes.
a big part of her storyline in here is just messing with these guys who Jeff is trying to eat with. And I'm just sort of like, what are we doing here, guys?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
everything in the present, not everything, but a lot of it in the present felt directionless. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like there's a story for what's going on. until we get to the phone with the
Yes.
Juice Newton on it,
Yeah.
and then we get to this envelope with this tape that Callie now has. And that's the only sort of like threads that we have of like, what is the story
Yeah.
going to be in the present? We are 2 episodes in now, and we still don't really have what the story in the present is going to be yet. Now, okay, tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is Walter going to kill Shauna? Because I'm starting to feel like the answer is going to be yes, or is going to be he's going to try. They are definitely setting up
Hmm.
for Misty to either take a really good look at who her friends are,
Yeah.
because she has long lived in this la la land that these are her friends, these are her teammates, but they do treat her really poorly, really poorly.
Yeah.
Like, she's out there feeling her feels about losing Nat, wearing the jacket, taking shots, getting into fights, like the perfect memorial for Natalie, opposed to that church thing that was going on that didn't make any sense. But
No.
that was perfect. She really like was there living the Natalie lifestyle there. And the bartender had to call a bunch of people to get to Walter, and Walter's like, I'm W in the phone. Like,
Yeah.
they called your friends and nobody came to get you. Nobody picked up, nobody cared. And it's true. And then we get Shauna, who's using Misty to be like, hey, yeah, I need you to come over and just babysit my daughter and Lottie while I go out. And
Hmm.
it's so frustrating to watch. And it's always been frustrating. I mean, it is part of the show.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's now making me feel really bad. And I think it's because Walter is that voice of like, you deserve better than this.
Hmm.
I can give you better than this. I have been giving you better than this. I'm making you breakfast in bed. I'm making a sign for your bird. I'm doing anything that I can to make your life better because you deserve better than what they're doing to you. And yeah, Misty doesn't want to see it. And I understand. There's a trauma bonding that's been going on
Yeah.
with her and the team and her friends. But at the same time, I can see Walter's frustration rising. And we have seen Walter do some stuff to Kevin. Like, he is a problem. He has no problem killing somebody. So could he move in to try to take out Shauna because he thinks Shauna's treating Misty badly? And then that also brings Misty into him.
I think there's a good chance. I think they are going to want to put people in jeopardy, obviously, throughout this season and whatever timeline. And they want to have a couple of different sources of jeopardy, right? Like,
A yellow jacket has to die every season.
yeah, like one of them could easily be him that's, trying to inflict harm on
Yep.
somebody else. He's unhinged enough that that
Yes.
would happen. But I think the biggest thing to me is that Elijah Wood is, he's an iconic actor in his own
Yes.
right. Like,
Yes,
you're
he
not going
is.
to have Frodo Baggins on this show unless you're giving him really good material. So it's going to spike at some point. And I mean, and speaking of big names, it's time to have the Hilary Swank conversation here.
Yep.
Because you mentioned earlier that there is the Juice Newton song, there's the
Yes.
tape. Somebody had to be responsible for some of that. And
Yeah.
this is the funny part of it to me. I don't necessarily know the character, but I am like 99.9% that this character is played by Hilary Swank. Like, I know it feels like maybe the hair we saw is a little bit brighter than Hilary Swank's hair if you pause on the trailer, but lighting, there's different angles. It's like
A diet, it could be a wig. I mean, I feel like it's pretty sure that for me that she's playing Melissa. That's what this feels like.
yeah, I've run through a handful of different possibilities in my head where Melissa feels, and I mean, we'll get into Melissa in the past a little
Mhm.
bit more, but it
Yeah.
feels like Melissa could make a good bit of sense. Like, it could especially make sense if they want to have another Yellow Jacket because they lost the Yellow Jacket last season. That's
Yeah.
another way to go. And I had this big theory for a really long time with Walter that he was a sibling of a Yellow Jacket and that he was kind of coming on to get some element of vengeance. It feels like maybe that's also possible here with Hilary Swank. I tried to think a lot about, okay, could she be Mari? Because Mari clearly has an axe to grind with some people in the past, but then there's the big question of like, okay, does Mari even make it to the present? And then
Mhm.
that's a whole can of worms itself.
Yeah, I mean, we still don't know who Pit Girl is, and it's somebody who's got dark hair, and there's not that many people with dark. It's not Lottie. We know
Yeah.
that she's alive in the present. So it would be great to see Amari in the present for sure,
Yeah.
to see her there. Oh my goodness. I mean, the back and forth with
Yeah.
her and Shauna, it's pretty intense in the past. But
Yeah.
at this point, now that it's been revealed that Shauna has at least this one encounter with Melissa, whether or not they have a longer relationship, we don't know yet,
Yeah.
right? But it's clearly something that Melissa is diving into in her feelings. I mean, she's really there protecting Shauna the best that she can. She's stomping on the ground. She's putting
Yeah.
flowers on her baby's grave. She's really there. I mean, Shauna's got a knife up to her throat and she's like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to shoot my shot. I'm gonna shoot my shot. I'm gonna kiss her and see where it goes. And it worked.
Listen,
Let's go, Melissa, shoot your shot.
you're a very bold person. I will just say that. That is not a scenario where I'm shooting a shot. That is a scenario where I am running in the other direction.
And it just feels like exactly that. That if somebody has a knife up to you and you're going to be like, I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to try to get a kiss in there and see if it works out. It feels like Melissa is fine to sort of tiptoe in danger in that way.
Yeah.
So now here in the present where there's this tape, this videotape that's in this package and somebody's looking at Shauna while she's out after, the memorial, everything. It feels like somebody who would be obsessed with her in that kind of way. That's like, you can do no wrong. You want to hold a knife up to me? I'm still going to shoot my shot with you, girl. I do not care. It can be anything. I just want to be with you. And it feels like then that this could be something that's happening here in the present, that she's just like, I don't care what the situation is. We need to reconnect.
A thing I'm the most curious about, and this could be applicable to if this is Melissa, if this is Mari, if this is anybody who was a Yellowjacket, it's just, why is no one mentioning that this person is alive? And then that kind of goes back then to the past, where let's say it is Melissa.
Yeah.
Then Melissa would have had to have done something that's pretty terrible. I would think that all of these other Yellowjackets are just going to pretend like she's not out there, not mention her, not talk about her. Like, it's one of those sort of things. We get into this when we're covering like Dexter Original Sin at the same time, where it's like, okay, why aren't they mentioning Captain Spencer on the original show? What happened there? And it's these questions just always rack my brain when I'm watching.
Okay, so my tinfoil hat of why at least Shauna might not be involved with her anymore, besides the fact that, sometimes teenage romances don't continue on. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Is I've always thought that Shauna and Jackie, while best friends, I've always felt like Shauna has been interested in Jackie, that she had feelings for Jackie. And that's why she hooked up with Jeff in the first place, that she couldn't be with Jackie, so she could be with Jeff. And that's how she ended up in this situation. And I think that she probably left the forest still feeling that way. I mean, we saw her in this episode being like, man, you guys are all having a celebration and like, oh, thank you for your sacrifice. She's just like, my baby and my best friend, like who I love, is dead. Like, this is not okay what you guys are doing. And I think it's very significant that she didn't only bring up her baby, she also brought up Jackie and how much she loved her and was her best friend, and how much guilt Shauna carries with her still after they had that fight. Jackie goes out, Jackie ends up dead. Like, Shauna's really carrying that weight, that it feels like it's no surprise then that she leaves the wilderness and ends up with Jeff, who's the connection to Jackie. It happens all the time in grief, where people end up with or hooking up with people that have, both had a connection with someone who is lost, and they both have a connection with Jackie.
This is a very awkward time to bring this up, but I think I need to say it.
All right.
I love Jeff. Jeff is like one of my...
I know, he's so good.
He's one of my few favorite characters on the entire show. And no matter the circumstances of how him and Shauna ended up together in the present, I'm just like, you know what? it's fine because I get to watch you on screen, Jeff. No, but
I just wish she treated him just a little
I
bit better.
know.
Like, I understand where she was coming from, that she didn't want people, talking crap to him the way
Mhm.
that they were kind of talking to him and kind of laughing a little bit at him. And I get that,
Yeah,
but it is still business. And he did still have a lucrative deal on the table, and he
yeah.
really needed her there. And she really let him down on that.
I think no matter where the storyline in the past goes, Jackie is a presence still. Like this isn't a
Yes.
spoiler because it's in the trailer. I mean, Ella Purnell's going to show up at some point this season. So I mean, there's a good chance it's going to be in Shauna's head or something
Yes.
like that, or maybe they'll come up with some sort of other crazy way to do it. But
Or maybe she's absorbed into the wilderness. I mean, people are hearing, Travis is drinking all this mushroom tea and
yeah,
like hearing screaming and voices. We've seen Ben talking to somebody.
yeah.
Maybe as people are dying, they're being absorbed into the wilderness and people are hearing them.
Well, as we dive fully into the past here, I will say first and foremost, I'm kind of surprised they had as big of a time jump in the past as they did. Because I thought we were really going to be seeing, okay, the cabin's now gone and we'll dive fully into the cabin. You know,
Mhm.
winter is over. We're getting into the warmer months. The snow's starting to melt or whatever. But I really kind of thought we were going to see them rebuild more. And now we've got the huts are already up. Everybody's kind of settled. I'm guessing if I had to just put on like a TV producer tinfoil hat here,
Mhm.
it's probably really hard to shoot something where it's like the snow's kind of melting and it's in the spring and like that sort of transitionary period. I think they were probably just like, it's a lot easier to just have it be summer now. We don't have to build up these sets over time.
All right, I'm putting on my disappointment hat because I actually wanted to see how they dealt with that, because when they were out there at night while that was burning down,
Yeah.
I mean, the next day needed to be perfectly warm. Like they were going to absolutely freeze out there
Hmm.
overnight. They didn't have any shelter. They would have had to get something together
Yeah.
in a day. Like I know they showed like this book about primitive hut building and stuff. I'm like, where did you get this book from? Like it's so weird. And but even seeing their shelters, I was like, these shelters are pretty good for people who have never built shelters
Yeah.
before. I am by no means
Yeah.
a shelter building expert, but I have watched a lot of Alone, and watching them build those shelters, it's impressive. It's very difficult. And looking at these shelters, I'm like, there's no moss in
Yeah.
between any of this stuff. There's a tiny bit on the roof. There's no leaves that are packing this in. The wind is going to be whipping right through these. Like, this doesn't make sense that they're alive.
Okay. I think I figured out what
The
happened.
wilderness has come in to help them.
Well, the wilderness in this case is actually Survivor alum Boston Rob, who was really good at making shelters. The only person on that show who could. Rare Boston Rob crossover in Yellowjackets.
Yep.
Hey, I'm building it. No, but I just
All right.
think that it was a situation where, I don't know, they must, at the time they spent out there, they figured out how to build this. That's fine, I guess. But really, the big question mark in the past at this point is like, did Coach Ben actually burn the cabin down in the first place? Because it felt really certain that he did, because he has the most motive to do it. He's sort of this guy who's trying to still have this moralistic view of the world where,
Mhm.
you can't eat your fellow players. Like you can't do stuff like this. And I think he just feels like these people are incapable of going back into society. So that's why he's doing all these things. But then you see him in this episode, he's trying to act like it wasn't him.
Yeah, he is trying to act like it wasn't him. And there's a couple possibilities. It is possible that it wasn't him and that it
Yeah.
was somebody else. Maybe, I know this is going to sound crazy, but someone like a Natalie, who I know was just like dubbed the queen,
Yeah.
but maybe she felt like it was time to get out of that cabin and move on to somewhere else, do something else. Maybe she doesn't exactly agree with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
She does feel a tremendous amount of guilt
Mhm.
about what's happening, but she also was the person, while she was like out in the woods looking for Mari with Misty, saw the trapping put
Yeah.
out there and realized that Ben was still alive and moved Misty away from that the best that she could. She's still protecting him. Is it because she knows that he didn't do it because she did it?
I think there's a few different possibilities that are at play that I'm kind of thinking about right now. I think Natalie feels like one of the top contenders among the Yellow Jackets we know, mostly because of everything that you've sort of lined out. I mean, we know that Ty is not always fully in control of herself. It's
Mhm.
something we have to remember there.
Right.
Ben may not be aware that he did it, and he actually did do it.
That's what I think it is. We heard him talking to
Yeah.
somebody else in that tree cave. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not all there.
Now, there is one other really crazy theory that I'm going to bring up here,
All
and I'm
right.
going to put on tinfoil hat for this
All
because
right.
this is pretty
I'll put
elaborate.
it on top of my disappointment
Okay,
hat.
that's fine because this is there's a lot of disappointment that probably goes into this too because
Whoa, okay.
long ago, and I say this like this because, it's been a long time since we've seen Yellow Jackets, but we've
Yes.
known for well over a year and a half at this point that there was this mythical bonus episode of Yellow Jackets that was supposedly filmed around the time that season 2 was. And,
Mhm.
television's Jason Ritter, who I will always call him that now because of Gen V, but like Jason Ritter was apparently going to be in that episode. And I kind of have always theorized that that was kind of an origin story episode about the cabin and about how that cabin kind of first came to be
Mhm.
and what happened way back when. And this to me kind of also ties into all of those supplies that Ben found. It's
Yep.
kind of a classic trope for this genre that maybe there was like a research station or something that was out there and there were supplies that were being brought in. But what if television's Jason Ritter is still out there and who is actually responsible for taking out this cabin? And it's not somebody we know at this point because the biggest reason I bring this up is because of this question of okay, if this bonus episode was filmed a long time ago,
Mhm.
why haven't we seen it? And my idea on this at this point is that I don't want to sit here and be like they're just making this show up as they go along because I don't think that's fully the case. Like they do have some sort of plan, but they have also shown over time that they're willing to alter certain parts of the plan. Like this Melissa character was never even really named in the first season, and now all of a sudden she's becoming more of a bigger deal. I kind of feel like originally they wanted to sort of show more of that cabin origin story right after season 2. But I think after they've kind of
Mhm.
figured some things out with this fire, I think they're now like, okay, let's wait on this. We can show it later and it'll still be just as relevant as it was going to be then.
Yeah, I mean, now that the cabin is gone, it is curious who that man in the cabin was that people
Yeah.
had been seeing. Are we ever going to get answers to that? We might not now that the cabin is gone. Or we might if it is something like as people are dying, they're being absorbed into the wilderness. Or is that person in this tree cave with Ben? Who is he talking to? We didn't see.
Yeah.
We didn't hear another voice. Is this person in his head? I mean, I don't know. But he did find those boxes that were
Yeah.
filled with supplies. Like somebody was clearly there,
Yeah.
clearly had it hidden underground. Coach got really lucky finding it. Mari got really unlucky finding it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who else was there and what did they do during their time there?
I'm just kind of in this mindset now that maybe this guy, this Jason Ritter guy, whoever this ends up being, like that he was in this cabin. Maybe he was off doing some sort of remote research or whatever. The Yellow Jackets move in, and then he's in this spot where, for one reason or another, he doesn't want to show himself to them. He doesn't know if
Right.
he can trust them. He goes and finds this cave because we know somebody was in this cave before Ben was. Like there was clearly evidence of that.
Mhm.
And so that there might be some communication there, or this Jason Ritter guy may have left and gone somewhere else at that point, and the supplies are still being brought in because whoever he was communicating with, like maybe he doesn't know. I'm just really stuck on this idea that whatever happens in this bonus episode, like it has to be independent enough of the present day story that they can kind of just air it at any point. Like it's not directly connecting to anything, so there has to be a reason they're holding on to it.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't air it unless, like, my only real feeling is that they didn't feel very confident with it. So they were like, yeah, we have this. Maybe we'll air it. All the strikes were going on. Then
Yeah.
they just were like, you know what? We just don't feel that confident about it.
Yeah.
Or they changed the story going into this season that they're like, now it doesn't make any sense anymore. It's just not canon to the show. So they just shelved it. But I will say
Mhm.
that the story with Coach
Yeah.
is the hardest part for me to watch in the past. Like, he was someone that I had always kind of wanted to root for,
Mhm.
but it was so difficult watching him tie up a
Yeah.
teenager and march her through. She's crying, she's in pain, it was so uncomfortable. I hated watching it.
It's a really it's
I understand
yeah.
what he's saying, that he's like, "You're gonna go back and, like, I'm gonna end up
Yeah.
getting killed," but there wasn't enough, it didn't feel enough from Coach that he was, like, really terrified while he was doing this. He felt confident while he was doing this, and that was the part that made me feel just miserable.
It's a really uncomfortable sort of villain persona that he's taking on here. Because
Yes.
we've seen this in dozens of movies. I play a lot of video games. I've seen it in countless video games of the adversary who legitimately believes that what they're doing is right to the point where they're able to
Yes.
morally justify every single thing that they're doing. And it's just like you look at a character like Coach, where he's been wronged in some ways, and he knows that the Yellow Jackets have done some really, really bad things, but two wrongs don't make a right. It's like, his
Yes.
actions don't justify what he is doing or what he is thinking. Like, I feel for him that he was uncomfortable about the idea of some of what the Yellow Jackets did. And I more than understand that. Like, I relate to that part of it, but it's just, you can't do this. You can't just also
No.
bring Mari back to a cave and give her hot chocolate and think that everything is going to be well and good. I mean, this is going to be a curious story now because Mari wasn't exactly being treated the best by some of the other Yellow Jackets. So, I mean, where does she land now?
Yeah, I mean, she may be nervous to go back. On
Yeah,
top of it, yeah, he's got hot chocolate, he's got food.
yeah,
I mean, is there a way that maybe they end up working together in some sort of way?
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, I've got a couple of crazy thoughts here as we wrap up these two episodes. Like,
Okay.
here's the weirdest theory that I don't believe is true. It's just that the Yellow Jackets were hearing all this noise at times and it turned out to just be Ben. So, what if the wilderness is just Ben and they've all just sort of made it up and Lottie has just persuaded all? Like, I don't think it's that simple, but I think that is a projection to the idea that a lot of these mythical ideas that these people tend to believe. It is that classic Scooby Doo factor of there's always a human underneath the mask. And I've
Yeah.
always thought there's a supernatural air to what's going on in the past, but I've also felt like there are probably more realistic explanations for some of it beyond what we know.
Yes, I feel like the scariest answer is that it's humans,
Yeah.
that it's people that are doing this, that it's mind tricks that are happening on
Yeah.
humans. I mean, we even saw everything that was going on with Travis drinking that tea and
Yeah.
Lottie pushing him, and it's like, you're the one that's connecting. It's like, is he connecting?
Yeah.
He's drinking mushroom tea. Like, who knows what's actually happening there?
Yeah.
To the point that Travis even says, and I don't know that I believe him, that he's just like, yeah, the wilderness told me it's not me, it's her. I'm just like, okay, is it, or are you just over this?
Listen, that if he's doing something like that, that to me is hilarious because that's kind of like Two-Face and Batman, who's got the coin, and then he just flips the coin enough times till he gets the result that he wants, and then he takes
Exactly.
somebody out. No,
Yeah.
the okay, here's the two other ridiculous things I felt about this episode. Number one, how do these people have so many outfits in the past? Like, I'm just sitting here and looking at all this like elaborate garb. It's like, did you guys make all this? How big were your suitcases? Were you on the planes?
Yeah, my other question is, how did you catch those bunnies? Please. There's no way that in this short amount of time they have figured out traps that are going to be able to catch those bunnies alive. We saw a lot of trapping there
Yeah,
with the hoop along the ground to catch bunnies where they are not alive.
yeah,
The fact that they actually have alive bunnies and Travis is just kind of sweeping it away, being like, she's
yeah,
the animal whisperer. No, BS. I call BS. I own a bunny. I've owned bunnies my whole life. There's no way you're catching a bunny like that and just be like holding them and keeping them in a pen. Stop. That pen wasn't even high enough to keep a bunny in there. When I first got a bunny, I had like a little pen for them just for when they were at nighttime so they could sleep with no roof on it. It was well over 3 feet tall. My bunny just rip right over onto the bed. I woke up in the morning. I was like, oh, cool. So she's here. And that's just the way that it is. They can jump extremely high. She has jumped my entire entire bed frame. I'm just like, guys, there is no way. You guys need a proper animal person on set to be able to like make this a thing. Bunny owners, there's lots of us. There's millions of us, and we're all here being like, no, 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 no.
It's
She's not just catching a rabbit and putting it in a pen that it can jump over, and then it's just like, yeah, I'll just stay here.
I will say this. I don't have the same experience Jess does with bunnies. I thought it was curious. It was one of those things where I watched, I was like, and I was like, I'll talk to Jess about it later. She probably knows better than I do.
There was also a moment that where Travis looked over and she was holding this bunny on its back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where is your animal person on set? You never hold a bunny on their back. It can literally break their back. And they're in like a frightened position being put on their back. They go into this like trance like state where they can literally have a heart attack in your hands. I was like, where is the animal person?
Yeah, I don't know. I would hope you guys would learn something more in the time you're in the wilderness. Okay, this is the last thing I have, and I don't know if I don't know if I like this or hate this. I'm still kind of going through my feelings about it. The van previously on montage speech that she gives.
Loved it.
Okay, see, this is where the inner
Loved it.
the inner theater kid in me, because I was in theater in high school, and there is this weird, I don't know, parallel universe where I think if I had a better improv comedy program in my high school, maybe I would have held on to doing it a lot longer, but I used to love Whose Line Is It Anyway. But anyway, my point here is that I could totally see myself doing something like this.
Me too, because I was totally a theater kid as well.
Yeah.
I loved it.
There was also this part of me, though, that was like, is this taking me too much out of the show? And I think it was taking me out of the show just because it made me think about myself, and I would probably be. But I do think it was good for who these people are. I think in the midst of everything they're going through in the wilderness, it can be really hard to forget that, at their core, they are still high schoolers, teenagers, / young adults. And that's just like, they're going to do some things like this that are a little bit silly, that people who are, my age or Jess's age, like, I don't know if we're standing up and doing a previously on montage.
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm turning 50. I don't care. I'm doing whatever.
You can stand up at the party, be like, previously on my life.
That's right. Exactly. No, they're teenagers. They're dealing with some extremely difficult circumstances, the things that they've done, the things that they've seen. To have just a little bit of joy there, it reminds me a lot of Lost in that way, where everybody's dying, horrible things are happening, and then all of a sudden it's like Jack and Hurley are out there playing golf with some golf clubs they found on the plane, and you still have to have those moments, because if you don't have those moments, then what are you living for?
Yeah, and I think we need these moments to remind us that, this show is about people trying to survive, but also they're still humans who need amusement, who need fun, who need connection. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing in that timeline. But that's where we are coming out of these first 2 episodes of Yellowjackets season 3. So let us know in the comments what you thought about these episodes. Who do you think is behind the fire? What did you enjoy? What did you not enjoy? Also, hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 70,000 subscribers. It's Jess's birthday. You want to help Jess out and also support us further by joining our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. We're covering exclusively there The Pit as well as Prime Target. Thank you. We'll see you here next time.